everyone. My name is Kira Lovell, and I am the host and organizer of the People's Archive. And today I'm here to tell you a little bit more about our project. So, what is the People's Archive? The People's Archive is a collection of oral history interviews that I started a few years ago, and we are releasing them as a free, accessible, ad free podcast. And they're all on interviews with people on taboo topics in South Korea. I really feel like there's a revolution brewing with people struggling to be able to talk about their issues, whether that is PTSD from mandatory military service or it is internalized homophobia. There's a lot of different experiences that people are having that they're unable to talk about. And I'm really trying to use this podcast as a medium for collecting oral history interviews to capture this particular moment in South Korea. A podcast serves as a form of digital history in which it allows us to use podcast platforms as a way to upload these oral history interviews so we don't have to maintain them on a website. It also allows us through social media and podcasting to be able to integrate a digital archive more easily into people's lives rather than serving as a website in which people might not necessarily go to. So, the research questions that we have broadly are: what are taboo topics in South Korea? What makes these topics taboo? How are individual people experiencing societal forces of constraint, such as shame, abuse, or surveillance? And how are individuals responding, whether that is through struggle or even if it's community building or resilience? So, the research process, the first is secondary source research. What in particular on gender and sexuality in Korea has been published? Not a lot. So, for example, we have a select few sources that we've been able to collect. And if you scan that QR code, you can have access to them. We've got academic journal articles, such as those by Timothy Gitson at the top left. We've got a couple of recorded interviews, such as that at the bottom left with a transgender activist named Ruin. We've got a couple of books, such as the bottom purple image, which is the cover of Queer Korea by Todd Henry. It's an edited collection on the queer experience in Korea. And then we also have some websites, such as this interview in Nova Asia, which is an op ed on the queer experience. So there's not a lot, and we wanted to create a platform for people to be able to do more queer history research. We're also looking at social media. So, one of our projects is looking at the way in which COVID became a medium for transphobia and homophobia when an outbreak happened at a gay club. And so, using Facebook and the Wayback Machine as a way to figure out the ways in which people are talking about homophobia and transphobia that's happening. We also are using it to our advantage to be able to integrate into people's lives, such as we have a social media platform on Instagram in which we share clips, the sort of like some highlights to really entice people into the interview. And then on YouTube, we have different clips there as well. So we're really trying to understand oral history as, not just recorded interviews that stay in an archive and maybe only release a transcript, but how can we integrate them into people's lives? So we've been able to record many different interviews, about 3 dozen so far, on a wide variety of topics. You can check them out on our website. So let me tell you a little bit more about our website. You can scan the QR code on the left to get to it, or the podcast is available on the top right. On our website, you'll be able to find the sort of descriptions of our episodes, such as everything that we've covered, from drag performer Maya Pussy Sparkles on the right, which you can see there. He talks about how burlesque encouraged them to become more in love with their body despite fat phobia. We've also got an interview with Dr. Sherry Slick, who's a professor in Korea who also owns an adult store with her partner. And then finally, episode 4 is an interview with Yuda, who talks about how their parent forced them into religious conversion therapy to try and prevent them from being queer. So we're really trying to capture a wide variety of people's experiences in Korea. Finally, I wanted to direct you to oral history as our method. So, some of our models include at the bottom right, Studs Terkel is a really famous oral historian, and his interviews with people capturing one on one conversations about things that are important to them serve as a real model for us. We're really interested in people directing their own narrative. And then, in addition, on the bottom left, the podcast Making Gay History by Eric Marcus is a really famous example of how just raw, unedited interviews can really change history, in which it might seem like a casual conversation, but 40, 50 years later is very, very important. Finally, the challenges. There's a lack of research on the topic, and we're trying to do our best to create new research on the topic. There's a language barrier. Things mean different things in English and in Korean, and many people that are Korean don't speak English. So we're really trying to negotiate a transnational space in Korea on this topic. There's a homophobic culture. There is a societal shame in Korea. And so it's really difficult, especially for Koreans, to want to talk about these issues. So we're trying to use our resources to the best that we're able to be able to make these bridges and make them in a way that's respectful, that's ethical, and comforting to them, and not only enlightening to the community. Finally, challenge is processing the data. The interview is probably the easiest thing in total. It is audio editing, it is processing the clips, it is creating descriptions, it's contacting and asking them if they want to cut, censor, and make edits. We really try and involve the interviewees as much as possible to make sure that they're comfortable with what is released, since it's free and accessible to everyone. So we want to make sure that they're comfortable. So we have a lot of challenges, but the rewards are really diverse. We've been able to interview all of these performers that you see here. In addition, some of the ones that are coming up in the future are trans performer June Green at the bottom left, and Hurricane Kimchi, a queer activist, in the bottom right. So stay tuned for more episodes and definitely check out our podcasts. Thanks so much for listening, and stay tuned for the People's Archive coming your way soon.